10 Spine-Chilling Lake House Horror Tales, Unexplained Terrors Revealed from Haunted Waters. The Morrison family thought they could escape their troubles at the lake house, but they were wrong. Jack and Maria packed their bags and their kids, Emma and Lucas, for a summer spent fishing and soaking up sun. The lake glistened like a promise. But as night fell, something twisted in the shadows. The whispers of the trees turned into sinister murmurs, brushing against skin like ice. Was it just the wind or something more? The flickering lights that danced above the lake made hearts race and skin crawl. One evening, Emma bent down to pick up stones along the shore. Her small hands unearthed an old locket. It glinted ominously in the moonlight, and when Maria saw it, dread curled in her stomach. Inside the locket was a faded photograph of a girl long forgotten, her eyes wide in silent terror. Maria's breath hitched. Jack laughed it off, exhausted from work and the heat. But Maria felt something stir deep within her, a chilling message she couldn't ignore. Had they awoken something best left buried, days turned into weeks, and the sun-soaked days gave way to a dense blanket of unease. The town's sheriff, a friendly face during the day, became increasingly evasive, brushing off their concerns. A light drizzle of rumors hung over Creswell Lake, thick and ominous. Jack tried to stay positive, urging everyone to get used to their new routine. But that routine grew heavy with dread. They discovered broken toys along the shore, rusted tools half buried in the sand, remnants of lives lost or left behind. Each artifact whispered secrets of tragedy and despair. One eerie night, as the lake shimmered unnaturally, Jack's curiosity got the better of him. He stepped out into the darkness, drawn to the flickering lights dotting the water. Maria woke abruptly, a chill washing over her as whispers crescendoed into a symphony of dread. They called her name softly, almost lovingly, yet she felt the icy grip of terror curl around her heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the haunting whispers intensified, Maria gathered Emma and Lucas to her side. They needed to leave, to escape whatever darkness lay ahead. But they were caught, ensnared in something insatiable. Jack stumbled back, his eyes wide with terror. He couldn't unsee what he had seen. Shadowy figures danced at the water's edge, their laughter a chilling caress that froze fear in his veins. Desperation clawed at Maria. She could feel something reaching for them, dragging them toward the lake. The cold water lapped hungrily at the shore. Chilling echoes filled the air, laughter and cries spiraling around them in a chaotic swirl. Racing hearts, trembling feet, a scream welling in Maria's throat. What had they awakened? The sun might set, but this darkness felt like it would never go away. And just when they thought they might escape, a powerful grip pulled them toward the depths, leaving their fate uncertain, lingering on the edge of horror. The icy grip tightened around Jack's ankle, dragging him backward. Panic surged through him, and he fought against the invisible chains that sought to ensnare him. Maria screamed, her voice splintering the oppressive silence, but it felt swallowed by the shadows. "Jack! Come back!" she cried, clutching Emma and Lucas tightly. The children trembled in her embrace, their eyes wide with fear. They watched helplessly as their father flailed against something unseen, his breath hitching as he was pulled further from the safety of the shore. With a surge of adrenaline, Maria lunged forward, reaching for Jack, her fingers brushing against his. "Hold on!" she shouted, feeling a jolt of electric terror. The icy darkness seemed alive, wrapping around her wrists like serpents. She had to save him. Jack's eyes met hers, wide with dread. "Maria! Get the kids away! Run!" But the words fell flat against the haunting whispers that grew louder, drowning out reason. They circled around her like a gale, insistent, overwhelming. It felt so easy to listen, to give in. Suddenly, a blast of coldness knocked into Maria, sending chills spiraling down her spine as if the very water was gasping in response. "No!" she growled, shaking her head to clear the fog creeping in. She could not abandon him. Gathering her strength, she lunged toward the frigid water. The moment she waded in, a deafening roar erupted from the depths. The lake erupted in furious waves, splashing over her, trying to pull her under. Her thoughts raced. What were they fighting? A force born from the locket? A notion flickered in her mind. "Emma, Lucas!" she barked, squeezing their shoulders. "Listen to me. Get to the car. Now." They stood frozen in disbelief, eyes darting between her and Jack. Maria felt the pull of despair clawing at her heart. She needed to break the spell that held them. "Go," she repeated, turning her gaze back to Jack. He was slipping. The shadows writhed over him, caressing his body like a lover, whispering sweetly of eternal peace. The pain was etched in his face, fear blending into confusion. With an agonizing cry, Maria flung her arms around a nearby rock, pulling herself and knee-deep into the lake. She grabbed Jack's hand. "I want to let you go." The fierce pull intensified, threatening to swallow them both. Jack's breath hitched, he nodded through clenched teeth. Together, they fought against the monstrous electricity stinging their skin, summoning every bit of will they had left. Suddenly, Emma and Lucas screamed, echoing through the chaos. Maria glanced back, terror striking in her heart. They were surrounded by ghostly figures, the children's shadows flickering like candle flames in a storm. "Mom! Daddy!" Their cries echoed, insistent and frantic. With renewed determination, she shouted, "Focus on me. You can't give in." The words wedged themselves into the children's hearts, igniting something fierce. Defiance burned bright and fierce, driven by raw fear. Jack kicked against the waves, using all his strength to claw back towards the sandy shore. The shadows writhed in fury, and again that manic laughter enveloped them, taunting them. Finally, with one final, desperate heave, Jack and Maria tumbled out of the water, collapsing onto the shore, flinging off the sinister grip. Their legs quivered with exhaustion, yet they couldn't rest. The figures still loomed, chilling and relentless, eyes glaring from twisted faces. "We must go," Jack gasped, pulling Maria and the kids up. They stumbled backward, disoriented. The lake seemed to surge again, its surface shimmering ominously as the shadows writhed towards them with an instinctive hunger. The darkness wasn't ready to let them escape. As they began to run, a flash of that locket's image burned bright in Maria's mind. She could still feel its weight hanging around her neck. What did it mean? Was it a warning or an invitation? They raced toward the car. Behind them, laughter echoed, a symphony of voices rising from the water, taunting them. The children glanced back with wide, terrified eyes. Maria's heart raced, realizing the truth. This was just the beginning. What had revealed itself? What did they really awaken within the depths of Creswell Lake? And as they drove away, shadows flickered behind them, watching, waiting. The car screeched as Maria slammed the door, adrenaline still pulsing through her veins. Jack barely managed to get his seatbelt on before she hit the gas, tires spinning against the gravel. They tore down the narrow road, the trees around them bending and twisting in unnatural shapes as if warning them not to look back. "Mom! What happened?" Emma trembled, her voice shaky. Lucas was biting his lip, tears welling in his big, frightened eyes. "Just hold on, okay? We're going to be fine," Maria promised, though doubt gnawed at her. The whispers had not faded. They lingered like smoke in her mind, simmering beneath the surface, clawing to come back. Jack's grip on the dashboard tightened. "Did you see them? The figures, they were real." He couldn't shake the images of the ghastly faces, the eyes that seemed to swallow the light. "I don't want to go back there." Lucas cried, the fear of the lake choking him. They won't let us, Jack murmured, more to himself than anyone else. They'll follow. We need to get as far away as possible. With wide eyes, Maria glanced at Jack, fear fully igniting once more. What do you mean? Are you saying it's not over? Before Jack could respond, the car hit a bump, sending an unsettling jolt through them. The headlights cut through the darkness ahead, revealing a footpath leading towards an old, abandoned cabin. A chill wove through the air, whispering secrets they were not meant to understand. There. Emma pointed, her small finger trembling. Can we stop there? Please. The madness of their last moments in the lake surged back at them, and Maria felt the urge to keep driving. But something in the depths of those woods intrigued her, something that rubbed against the terror that gripped her thoughts. We need to gather our thoughts, Jack said, his voice firm. Maybe we can figure out what that locket is and what we awakened. Maria sustained a moment's hesitation, a war raging within her. No, they couldn't go back. Not now. Yet the thought of that dark water clawed at the edges of her mind, whispering promises of knowledge that felt forbidden. Before she could voice her doubts, Jack swung the steering wheel toward the footpath, and they pulled up to the creaking old cabin. It loomed in the moonlight, the shadows sprawling ominously in every direction. Stay close, Maria commanded, swallowing her own unease. She could sense the weight of the forest bearing down upon them, as if it were alive. Jack opened the door, the hinges groaning in protest. Each creak resonated with the foreboding in her heart. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with dust and the scent of moss. All around them, splintered wood seemed to breathe, sharing secrets of past conversations and long-lost fears. Jack stepped forward, the beam from his phone illuminating old photographs on the walls, faces lost to time yet so painfully familiar. Maria's heart raced. We should leave now. But then Emma gasped, pointing at a shadowed corner. Look! A small chest lay there, barely visible beneath a tattered blanket. It shimmered faintly as though beckoning them closer. What if it's a trap? Lucas whispered, clutching Maria's arm. Then we find out what it contains, Jack replied grimly, stepping toward it, determination etched on his face. So much hung in the air: fear, tension, the promise of revelation and danger. What lay within could either save them or lead them deeper into the grasp of what they had awakened. Taking a deep breath, Maria felt the familiar electric pull. A mix of dread and curiosity swirled inside her as Jack knelt and reached for the chest, fingers trembling. Would the truth free them or seal their fate? Jack's fingers brushed against the worn wood of the chest, and an icy shiver crept up Maria's spine. She felt the hair on her neck stand on end, a primal instinct urging her to pull him back, to stop this madness. There was something alive in this place, an energy that coiled around them like a predator stalking its prey. Jack, wait! She snapped, gripping his shoulder. He paused, glancing at her with wide, determined eyes. We don't know what's inside. Please, this could be a mistake. But he shrugged her off, determination solidifying on his face. He gripped the latch and, with a slow, deliberate motion, flicked it open. The chest creaked ominously, the sound resonating like a death knell echoing through the cabin. Mom, I'm scared, Lucas whispered, his voice barely breaking the heavy air. Without a word, Jack lifted the lid. A musty odor spilled forth, mingling with the dampness of the cabin, and the beam of his phone fell onto the contents. Tarnished silver trinkets and bones, brittle as autumn leaves, lay jumbled together. Maria's stomach sank as she recognized the items. Small, twisted figures glinted cruelly, charms of protection. Or curses. Look at this! Jack exclaimed, pulling out a faded locket. It gleamed in the dark like a fallen star, and the air thickened with a pulse of tension. Put it down. Maria's voice came out like a shriek. That's not ours. We shouldn't be touching any of this. But it was too late. Jack already had it in his hands, flipping it open. The light from his phone flickered, casting eerie shadows along the cabin walls. Within the locket lay a faded photograph, but the minute relations were obscured by age and damage. "It's just a picture," Jack said, though uncertainty dripped from his tone. "What's the big deal? Those figures, they whispered about it, they wanted it back." Maria's chest tightened, her breath quickened. "The lake, it's pulling us closer." Emma, eyes glistening with unshed tears, took a single step backward. "Mom, I don't want to stay here." Suddenly, a gust tore through the cabin, slamming the door shut behind them with a resonating boom. Dust swirled in the beam of light, and the shadows seemed to stretch, creep, and peel away from the walls, closing in around them. Jack and Maria exchanged a panicked glance. "Let's just go," he urged, backing away from the chest, but the locket swirled with an unnatural light, drawing their attention back. The photograph began to move, faces morphing and twisting, calling out with silent screams of agony. It was as if the images trapped in the metal were reaching through the ages to warn them, or perhaps to claim them. "Stop it, Jack!" Maria screamed, but he couldn't tear his eyes away. Marionette strings of horror danced around them. The whispers intensified, escalating to feverish screams, piercing their minds. Maria felt herself slipping under the weight of their voices, begging for release, for the return of what had been taken from them. "Mom!" Lucas cried, his little hands grasping at her shirt, panic bubbling in his voice. "We need to get away." The floorboards quaked, splintering beneath them as if the cabin itself were alive and rebelling against their presence. The photographs on the walls trembled, eyes watching, following their every move. Jack dropped the locket, and it clattered to the floor. He flailed to reach Maria and the kids, struggling to keep them safe. But shadows erupted from the walls, swirling like black smoke, reaching for them with ghostly hands. They had awoken something they were never meant to disturb. Maria felt the pull of the lake tugging at her senses, calling her name, demanding attention. "Run!" she yelled, her cool resolve shattering. They bolted for the door, the cabin protesting, shaking violently as if it were trying to keep them inside forever. As they reached for the handle, terror gripped them. Would they have the strength to escape the whispers, the shadows, and the wails of those who had been lost? Would they be able to break free from the ancient curse they accidentally unleashed? Outside, the forest watched, cloaked in shadows. As the lake gleamed ominously under the moonlight, the air heavy with an unseen menace. They couldn't outrun what lay beneath the surface. Would they ever be truly free? Maria's heart raced as they stumbled away from the cabin, each footfall echoing through the damp night air. The sounds of the forest felt alive, pulsating with a sinister rhythm. She cast a frantic look over her shoulder and saw the cabin flicker in the moonlight, its windows darkened and foreboding, as if something shadowy lurked just beyond the glass. "Faster!" Jack urged, gripping Lucas tightly. Emma whimpered beside her, eyes wide and brimming with tears. Maria's instincts screamed that they needed to put distance between them and that cursed chest, but her legs felt leaden, as if the very earth was trying to drag her back. Suddenly, the air thickened, and the whispers returned, sibilant and unnerving. They curled around her, piercing through the night, growing louder as if the forest itself was trying to communicate. "They're coming for you," they hissed. "You took what was never yours, Mom. What's happening?" Lucas's voice trembled, pulling her attention back to the darkened woods. "Keep moving," she shouted, snapping out of the spell the voices tried to cast over her. Their path meandered through the tightly packed trees, branches scratching at their faces like desperate fingers. Maria's breaths came in sharp gasps. She strained to hear behind them, half expecting to see shadows racing after them. The lake shimmered in the distance, its surface glassy and unnaturally inviting. As they pressed on, the trees around them thickened, a sea of dim branches rising like ominous sentinels. And there it was again, an eerie silence that swallowed every other sound. Maria glanced back once more, and in that moment, she saw it, a shape flitting from tree to tree, too fast, too fluid. Her skin crawled as realization washed over her. "What is it?" Jack demanded, his voice laced with panic. "I don't know," she shouted, though dread pooled in her gut. "Something's out there." Before they could react, a bone-chilling shriek pierced through the night, echoing off the trees. Jack froze, eyes wide, as if something frozen had seized him. Maria grabbed Lucas, pulling him close to her, shielding him as best as she could. "We need to hide," she whispered urgently, but just as they turned to find a place, the shadows coiled and twisted, forming tendrils that reached toward them, beckoning with promises of darkness. The whispers grew louder, swirling in a cacophony of terror that filled her mind with visions of deep water and restless spirits. "Make it stop," Emma shouted, but her voice was lost in the chaos. "Keep moving. We can't let them catch us." Jack urged again, a fierce determination igniting within him. They raced for the cover of a massive oak tree, its trunk gnarled and ancient. As they ducked behind it, the air crackled with tension, and the whispers grew frantic. "You must return what you've taken." Maria squeezed her eyes shut and clasped Lucas tightly, her heart pounding. She could sense them, those who lay beneath the lake, anger radiating off them like heat from a fire. "Mom," the locket, Lucas's voice quavered, breaking through her panic. "We took it away from them. What if they want it back?" The realization struck Maria like a cold wave. They'd awakened something, and the only way for it to end was to return the locket. But how could they ever go back now? The whispers escalated into shrieks, the shadows beginning to close in. "Return it. Surrender." In that moment, Jack gripped her shoulder hard. "We have to go back. We have to." Maria's heart sank. The lake shimmered mercilessly, reflecting the moonlight in waves that danced with hunger. Would they risk everything, confronting the very horrors they had feared? Was there a choice left to be made, or were they already doomed? With hesitation, Maria locked eyes with Jack. She knew the decision hung on the edge of a knife. "We're running out of time," Jack urged, desperation twisting his features. "What do we do?" And beneath their feet, the earth seemed to rumble, a promise of malevolent retribution echoing through the ground. Maria took a deep breath as fear flooded her veins. They had unleashed something, and now it wouldn't rest until it was satisfied. "Then we go back," she declared, her voice trembling but resolute. Could they face the darkness and return what was claimed? Or would the whispers and shadows consume them before they even reached the cabin again? Time twisted as they stood in the shadow of the ancient oak, caught in that moment of dread. Maria could feel the weight of the air around them, pressing in, suffocating. The whispers coiled tighter, crawling into her mind like spiders weaving their webs. "We have to go now." Jack's voice broke through, cracking with urgency. Gritting her teeth, Maria glanced at Lucas and Emma, both shaking with fear. They had no choice. She nodded sharply at Jack, and they pushed off the tree, sprinting toward the cabin that had become a beacon of terror. With every step they took, ice-cold dread consumed her. The wind howled like a banshee, branches thrashed wildly above them, and shadows danced in unnatural ways. The ground felt alive, each footfall resonating with the heartbeat of the forest. "Mom! I can feel it. It's here!" Lucas cried out, panic rising in his voice. "I know, just hold on," she managed, pushing the words through clenched teeth. The distance to the cabin felt like miles, the darkness thick and oppressive. Suddenly, the shrieks returned, piercing and relentless. They came from every direction, a chorus of wails rising from the depths of the woods. Maria's heart pounded in her chest, matching the frantic beat of her feet. The cabin loomed larger, dark and ominous, but she couldn't shake the feeling it was a trap, waiting to swallow them whole. As they neared the steps, she heard an unsettling sound, soft giggles floating through the night, wrapping around her like vines. She halted, dread locking her limbs. Jack pulled back, sensing her hesitation. "What is that?" he whispered, eyes darting around. "I don't know." Maria's voice faltered. Emma clutched her arm, the child's nails biting into her skin. "I don't like it, Mom," she whimpered, eyes wide and terrified. "Neither do I," Maria replied, a pit of fear opening in her stomach. They couldn't let fear own them, they had to keep moving. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the trees, a gaunt shape appearing in the moonlight. A woman with hollow eyes and a smile that cracked her face. Maria's breath caught in her throat. "Help us," the woman rasped, her voice a chilling echo of despair. "No!" Jack shouted, pulling Maria and the kids closer to him. The woman's laughter twisted into something shrill, feeding off their terror. "You can't escape," she taunted, stepping forward, her fingers long and skeletal, clawing at the air as if she could pluck them from the shadows. Maria turned, dragging her children back against the wall of the cabin's porch. Their hammering hearts thrummed in her ears. "We need to break in," she cried, frantic. "Wait," Jack said, but she had already lunged for the door, fingers fumbling with the lock. It wouldn't budge. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them like storm winds. "You belong to us, you awakened us." With a desperate shove, she threw herself against the door again. This time it screamed open, cracking against the wall. "Inside! Now!" Jack yelled as they slipped through. The cabin smelled rancid, something rotting festering within its very walls. The darkness enveloped them, and as the door slammed shut behind them, a heavy silence fell. For a moment, they could hear only their own ragged breaths echoing back at them. "Where do we go?" Emma whimpered, looking around the pitch-black room, shadows shifting just out of sight. "We need to find the locket." Fear gripped Maria's throat. "It has to be here somewhere." Jack moved ahead, feeling along the walls, searching for something, anything. Maria's heart sank. What if they found it? Would the forest let them go, or would this only fuel the darkness? As Jack's hand brushed across something cold and metallic, Maria felt a chill wash over her. "Here!" he exclaimed, pulling a dusty, old box from behind the couch. But as he opened it, a frigid wind swept through the room, extinguishing the last remnants of their hope. "What's inside?" Lucas asked, eyes wide with a mix of terror and intrigue. Maria leaned closer, her heart in her throat. But before they could see, the shadows in the corners of the room surged forward, wrapping around the box, dragging it back into darkness. The whispers echoed louder, rising into a cacophony of fury. "Return what is ours." It is not a choice. Maria felt her blood run cold. The lake's anger was palpable. They needed to act fast, or they could lose Lucas, Emma, and perhaps Jack too. Just as she reached for Jack's arm, a force slammed into her, knocking her back against the wall. "Return or be consumed." The walls of the cabin began to tremble, shadows choking the edges of her vision. "Mom!" Lucas screamed. With dread pooling in her stomach, Maria realized they were quickly running out of options, and the forest hungered for their souls. What would they face if they had to return the locket? Would it cost them everything? Maria's breath quickened as the shadows tightened their grip on the walls, pulsing like a malevolent heart. "We have to go deeper," she shouted, adrenaline surging as the darkness seemed to claw at them. Jack's gaze was wild, darting from Maria to the kids. "What if we can't find it? What if it's too late?" His voice trembled, exposing an edge of desperation that cut through Maria's resolve. "Shut up and help me," she snapped, her gut churning with a mix of fear and urgency. Running would only take them out into the storm of terror awaiting just outside the door. Frantically, she scanned the room. Dusty furniture loomed like ancient sentinels. There has to be a clue, somewhere. Lucas clung to Emma, his frightened eyes reflecting the flickering light from the dying candles scattered about. She could feel their panic weighing down on her, plunging her deeper into despair. "Mom, I can't breathe," he whimpered. "No more whining. Focus, Lucas." The words spilled out sharper than she intended, like shards of glass. As if responding to her anger, the shadows twisted and writhed, pouring out from the corners like liquid darkness. Maria's stomach dropped. A sharp crack echoed through the cabin. The floorboards beneath them started to splinter, racing toward their end like teeth closing on prey. "Look!" Emma shrieked, pointing to a door on the far side of the room. "Let us get to it!" Jack yelled, motioning for everyone. He drove ahead, leading the charge through the dimness. They sprinted toward the door, the air thickening around them as whispers crawled inside their ears. "You will not leave, return what is ours," the voices hissed, wrapping around them like tendrils of smoke. Maria reached the door first, yanking the handle down hard. It rattled but wouldn't budge. "We need something to pry it open." "Here." Jack slipped a rusty crowbar from his backpack, thrusting it toward her. The shadows twitched, swirling with malevolence as Maria wedged it into the crack of the door and pushed. It creaked, then gave way with a violent shove. They stumbled through the threshold into darkness, the cabin's shrieks echoing behind them. "What is this place?" Lucas whispered, shivering. The air was colder, almost biting. Faint light revealed a narrow corridor, lined with disturbing portraits whose eyes seemed to follow them. Their expressions shifted, old, weathered faces twisted into agonized screams. "Keep moving," Jack urged, shoving Emma forward. They pressed on, yet the corridor seemed endless, stretching far beyond what they could see. Shadows lurked just beyond reach, thick and swirling. Maria felt each labored breath, every heartbeat echoing like a war drum in her ears. Suddenly, a door at the end of the hall burst open. A figure emerged, a child, no older than Lucas, with sunken eyes and a haunting grin. "Help me," she rasped, her fingers outstretched as though from some invisible prison. Jack faltered, the crowbar slipping from his grip. "No. It's a trap," he shouted. The girl's laughter rang sharp and sickly, piercing through the tension. "You can't leave. You've already taken so much." Maria felt the weight of those words settle on her chest, squeezing until she could hardly breathe. Memories flooded back, nights spent around the lake, laughter, climbing trees. Everything had become twisted, tainted. "Return the locket." The girl's voice echoed, a bitter wail that echoed through the corridor, vibrating off the walls. "Run!" Maria screamed, grabbing Lucas and Emma, pulling them away from the apparition. But the darkness pressed in, and the figures in the portraits began to writhe, their mouths stretching into silent screams. They stumbled back into the corridor, hearts pounding in unison. Maria's mind raced. "We have to get back to the cabin. Find the locket." But as they turned, the corridor twisted, impossibly shifting, seeping shadows consumed their path. "I can't see," Emma cried. "Stay close to me," Jack shouted, but panic laced through every word. As the darkness swallowed them, the child's laughter echoed around them, lingering like a taunt. "You can't escape your past," Maria felt. The ground beneath her feet buckled, and just when she thought they'd been swallowed up by despair, a faint glimmer caught her eye, a shimmer of light escaping somewhere deeper down the corridor. "Over there," she gasped, moving instinctively toward the flicker, unsure of what awaited them. But she could feel the gaze of the angry forest surrounding them, and it begged the question, what awaited them at the end of this flickering light? Hope or another instantiation of their doom? The flicker pulsed, drawing Maria closer. Her instincts screamed against the draw of the light, but she gritted her teeth and pushed forward, dragging Lucas and Emma along. Jack hesitated, scanning the darkness behind them, as the shadows twisted like angry serpents, ready to strike. "Stay with me," Jack urged, falling into step behind them. The corridor's sinister chill curled around them, biting at their skin and fogging their thoughts. As they moved closer, the glimmer turned into a soft glow, pulsating like a heartbeat, and Maria found herself entranced. Memories of the locket surged in her mind, the promise it once held, the bond it represented. Yet, at the same time, a weight of dread settled like ice in her gut. What if it's another trap? Jack whispered, his voice barely audible over the thrumming energy in the air. "We have to take that chance." Maria snapped, desperation leaking into her tone. She rounded the corner, and there it was, the source of the light, a door ajar, shimmering like a beacon in the dark. "Mom, wait." Emma's voice trembled. Do you really think they're going to wait for us? Maria shot back, stepping over the threshold. They entered a room that felt like a surreal nightmare. The walls seemed to pulse, adorned with mirrors that reflected not just their terrified faces but warped versions of themselves, distorted, monstrous grins mocking them. "Look at that!" Lucas cried, pointing to a mirror on the far wall. Within the reflection, a woman stood beside him, a pale, spectre-like figure, her hair cascading like a waterfall of shadows, eyes lit with an unnatural glow. Maria felt her breath catch. "Help me," the figure echoed, mirroring the little girl's cadence from before. It was as if the very walls had absorbed the despair of those that had come before. "No!" Maria shouted, stepping closer, captivated yet horrified. "We can't help you." "The locket," the woman whispered, and in that moment, time unraveled. Behind her appeared a whirlwind of faces, people she recognized and yet didn't, their eyes hollow. Each face carried the weight of lost time, of secrets buried in the depths of the lake that had haunted this cursed place for generations. "Return what is owed," they murmured in unison, voices rising to a chilling crescendo that filled the air with static tension. "Run!" Jack breathed, but the door slammed shut before they could escape. The echoes of laughter rang once more, surrounding them in a suffocating embrace. Shadows congealed into shapes, inching closer, each whispering secrets clinging to the air. "Mom!" Lucas shouted, clutching her arm. His tiny body trembled with fear. Emma's face had gone pale, the light of hope snuffed out by despair. Maria glanced back at the swirling darkness, her heart hammering. "Focus!" Maria yelled, forcing her voice to stay steady. "We need to find the locket. It has to be here." The air thickened around them, disorienting, as the figures in the mirrors began to claw at the glass, the surface rippling as though it were water. Maria felt their screams claw at her mind, pulling her deeper into a darkness she feared could swallow them whole. Then, as if in response, the glow of the mirrors dimmed, revealing a dusty, forgotten box resting on a pedestal in the center of the room. "The locket," Emma whispered in awe, eyes wide. "Is that it?" Jack asked, stepping closer but stopping as the weight of the air became suffocating. "I don't know," Maria hesitated. But the moment hung too heavy, as if the room itself held its breath, waiting for her next move. Should they take the risk? What would happen if they opened it? The horrors swirling around them pressed in, demanding a choice. Maria reached for the box, but a sharp chill rushed through her fingers the moment she touched it, driving her back with a jolt of fear. The figures in the mirrors screamed, their voices mingling like a tempest as shadows leapt toward her. "Stay back!" Jack shouted, but it felt futile. With darkness closing in, Maria's heart raced. "What do we do?" Lucas cried, terror evident on his face. "Find the locket," she breathed, grip steadying. "On the edge of the box." But as she lifted the lid, time suspended in dread, she couldn't help but wonder, would they find salvation or unleash the very horrors they were trying to escape? And in that fleeting moment, she understood. The darkness hungered, and it had every intention of feeding. What would she unleash upon them all? The lid creaked open. Maria's heart dropped as cold air spilled from the box, swirling like a storming tempest. The glow from within cast ghostly shadows across the room, distorting their features as if they were being pulled into a nightmare. She leaned closer, spellbound, unable to turn away despite the dread curling tighter in her chest. "Mom, don't!" Emma screamed, her voice cracking with raw panic, but Maria could not help herself. The light shone brighter, revealing a delicate silver locket resting atop blood-red velvet. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own, mimicking the horrific heartbeat of the mirrors. "Touch it!" Lucas shouted, his voice shrill with urgency. "We have to." "No!" Jack burst out, his eyes wild, darting between the locket and the shadows creeping closer. It might be a trick. But Maria, driven by an ancient instinct, reached out. The moment her fingers grazed the cold metal, the room shuddered, the mirrors vibrating with a low, ominous hum. A collective gasp echoed from the walls, a symphony of lost souls ready to erupt. Shadows twisted into clawed hands, grasping at her, and for a fleeting second, Maria saw their pitiful faces, mouths opened in silent pleas. "Stop!" Jack ordered, his voice tinged with desperation. His hand shot out, grabbing Maria's wrist, a barricade against the chaos. "What if it's the only way?" Maria said through gritted teeth. The fear in her voice was palpable, but something deeper, something dark, was consuming her thoughts. "Mom, please." Emma's eyes were wide, glistening with tears, their reflected terror trapped in the glass only amplified her own. "Return what is owed," came the whispering chorus from the mirrors, echoing like a haunting elegy. "No. You don't own her." Jack shouted defiantly, stepping forward. In that fragile moment, as the tension held them in a suffocating grip, Maria's fingers tightened around the locket. It felt warm against her skin, alive with ancient energy. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, leaving a silence pregnant with anticipation, as if the world set itself on pause. "What is owed?" Maria muttered, barely audible, her mind awash with memories she couldn't grasp. A flicker flashed within her, a phantasmagoric image of a child small, innocent playing with the same locket years ago. "Mom, please." Emma cried again, panic sparking in her voice. With a surge of resolve, Maria plunged her hand deeper into the box, searching for answers. Her heart caught in her throat as a dark, flowing mist erupted from the locket, curling around her arm. It coiled and twisted, taking form, revealing the very spectre from the mirror, the pale woman with hollow eyes, eyes wide. Maria stumbled back, the locket slipping from her fingers. It hit the floor with a soft thud, the mist collapsing back into the box in a flurry of whispers, churning with rage and sorrow. "What have you done?" The woman rasped, her voice a chilling whisper that sent shivers racing down Maria's spine. "You have awakened the curse." The room lurched as the lights flickered violently. The shadows, once static, sprang to life, swirling around them, tearing at their sanity with a cacophony of screams mixed with laughter. The mirrors shattered, shards exploding outward like a rainfall of glass, but it was the darkness that consumed her thoughts, a resonance of despair clamping down on her, and she knew, deep in her bones, the truth: they had unsealed something that should have remained buried. "Mom!" Emma cried, her voice muffled by the chaos swirling around them. Maria could only stare in horror as reality began to warp, the room twisting into a nightmarish landscape. The ghosts once trapped in the mirrors were rushing toward them, their screams growing louder, each face a tapestry of sorrow and malevolence. "What do we do now?" Jack shouted, panic tinged with desperation. Before she could respond, the box exploded in a burst of dark energy, scattering the locket into shadowy fragments, each piece glinting with malevolence. With darkness coiling around them, Maria understood this was just the beginning. And as the shadows lunged forward, ready to consume them whole, she realized they weren't searching for a way out, they were already in too deep. Could they survive the horrors they unleashed? Or would they become the next chapter in the lake's ghastly tale? Maria's world splintered into chaos as shadows surged around them, mounting like a tidal wave of despair. The ghosts of the lake clawed at her mind, their whispers growing into a dissonant symphony of agony and anger. She clutched Lucas and Emma close to her, shielding them from the terror threatening to envelope them whole. "Run!" she shouted, her voice barely piercing through the maelstrom. Jack, ever the protector, grabbed Emma's hand, his eyes a wild mix of fear and determination as they surged toward the only escape, the door they entered through. But the doorway pulsed with shadowy energy, flickering between the worlds of the living and the damned. "Let us go," Jack demanded, pushing against the door, but it wouldn't yield, locked tight by the very darkness they stirred. "It's not going to let us out." Maria's heart raced as she scanned the room, a desperate search for anything, any flicker of hope that could guide them. Desperation clawed at her throat. In that moment, the haunting faces in the mirrors surged back into her memory, the spirits trapped within, waiting for their chance at freedom. "Jack!" Maria shouted, her throat raw. "The locket!" We need to return it. What? Jack's face twisted in confusion, eyes frantic as the shadows pressed in tighter like a noose. We can't just go back, it'll consume us. It's the only way. Maria replied, the pulse of despair echoing through her bones. We've unleashed this. We have to end it. The air grew heavy with dread, suffocating them, yet within that darkness, something flickered with life, something inside her pushed forward, urging her on. She spotted the shards on the floor, the scattered pieces of the locket. The locket is our chance. With a flicker of resolve, Maria sank to her knees, desperately gathering the pieces, her fingers trembling as they glided over the cold metal, each fragment pulsating with the sorrow of those who had come before her. Mom, be careful. Lucas squeaked, his small voice shivering with fear as he peered over her shoulder. I know, baby. I know. As she reassembled the locket, its form began to glow, swirling with ethereal energy. The darkness ventured closer, shadows coiling around her like vipers. We're not going to make it. Emma wailed, tears spilling down her cheeks. Hold on. Jack yelled, standing between them and the encroaching shadows, his expression a fierce mask of protection. We won't let them take you. No. We're going to return it. Maria shouted, the desperation coursing through her veins igniting something primal, a fierce resolve born from the love of her children. We take it back. Jack glanced at Maria, understanding flashing in his eyes despite the fear. Let us do it, then. They moved as one, adrenaline surging through their veins, their hearts pounding in unison. Maria, her voice trembling but strong, began to chant the words she felt deep within her, a plea for the spirits to listen, to forgive, to release them from their grip. We acknowledge what we've awakened. We return what is owed. The shadows recoiled, churning violently, their faces twisting in rage. The whispers grew deafening, a tempest of voices swirling around them, yelling their protest. But Maria's voice filled the air, a beacon, a lifeline to the lost souls trapped in torment. This is yours. She cast the locket towards the depths of the room, watching as it sailed through an angry stream of grasping shadows. Time held its breath, and the room quaked as it neared the center. Then, with a profound hum, the locket landed at the heart of the darkness. In a blinding flash, the shadows surged toward the locket, vortexing around it in furious spirals. The walls trembled, filled with a cacophony of anguished cries before an ear-piercing silence enveloped the cabin. With bated breath, the Morrison family clung to each other, trembling. The air shifted as the darkness began to recede, shadows unraveling back into the corners, as if released from a cage. A whisper filled the air, gentle now, filled with a hauntingly beautiful melancholy, a siren's song of souls freed from their burdens. You have returned. Thank you. Maria blinked back tears, her heart full yet heavy. Did it work? Slowly, the cabin fell still. No more laughter, no more cries, a calamitous void left in the wake of the storm they had encountered. She looked at Jack and the children, their faces reflecting sheer disbelief entwined with a quiet understanding. They had faced the abyss and emerged scarred yet free. Let us go, Maria whispered, pulling her family into a tight embrace, grounding herself in the tangible warmth of their bodies. As they retraced their steps, the air felt different, lighter, as if a weight had lifted. Outside, dawn broke over Creswell Lake, rays of golden light cascading warmly across the surface. The world felt renewed, transformed, a second chance glimmering amidst the remnants of fear. They stepped into the light together, leaving the haunting cabin behind. We did it, Emma murmured, her small voice fragile but assured, still shivering with the remnants of terror. We faced it, Jack affirmed, squeezing Maria's hand, their resolve stronger than ever. And we survived. And as they made their way back to the car, shadows flickering softly along the edges of the trees, Maria knew they could now finally lay that darkness to rest. The lake held its secret still, but she felt a whisper of hope dancing through the air. They had conquered fear, strengthened the bonds of love, and awakened a part of themselves they would never forget. With the sun rising boldly across the horizon, the Morrison family drove away, leaving behind what had once gripped them in terror, freed from the lake's haunting grip, ready to embrace a new beginning. As they vanished down the winding road, the lake shimmered quietly, holding its mysteries under the calm surface. No whispers lingered in the air now, just the promise of another day. But this had been a reminder of the darkness hidden within, a testament that sometimes, confronting the past was the only way to find true peace. Don't forget this journey, share it with others, stricken by fear or held captive to their pasts, so they too may break their own chains. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will grip you with heart-pounding excitement. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support the channel. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Is it truly over for the Morrisons? Did they really free the spirits or just stir another wave of chaos? And for heaven's sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends. Friends, don't let friends miss out on the thrill of this adventure. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.